This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brentford! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor, one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic! Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it. Yeah!
Hello and welcome to this episode of Red Side of the Trent, here to bring you the fan preview of the Brentford game coming up on the Super Sunday, as they call it these days, although it's not always that super, to be honest. But I am joined by Twitter fan favourite, Forest fan, Matt Barnsley, also known as City Ground Shelf. Are you all right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, mate. Are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. I've never asked you, why do you go by that name on Twitter?
Because I'm stood on the shelf in A block. So basically, you'd come up you'd walk up the stairway in A block, and basically there's like a ledge, and our row L is on the shelf because it's on the ledge. I know that sounds really weird, but I'll have to I'll take a picture and I'll give a analytical reasoning behind my username.
No, it's good. You're a very liked person on Twitter. I think one of the ones that doesn't really stir too much shit around, if I can call it that. But yeah, what's your thoughts been on the start of the season so far?
Yeah, good, really positive. I said on a tweet on Sunday, I think I said that all of the games that I've either watched on the telly or I've been to, I've always walked away thinking we'll be absolutely fine this season, even in the defeats. I mean, there were stages last season where I think, particularly in the early part, where you were kind of coming away from games thinking they were well beaten, they were never in the game, and you thought, where is the next points or wins going to come from? But this season, it's just, whether that be Saturday at the Etihad or at Old Trafford, and both, particularly the game at Old Trafford, was very disappointing. I walked along thinking there's so much talent and ability on that pitch, and there's going to be more than enough over a 38-game Premier League season to get the points we need to comfortably stay in the league. So I've got no doubt of that, particularly given how poor I think the current bottom three are. So I'm very optimistic and positive about the way it's gone.
What do you think's changed since pre-season? Because everyone lost their head, didn't they? Especially when we lost 5-0 to Rennes, everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to go to Arsenal and get beat again." Yeah. What do you think's kind of changed in the mentality there?
Well, I think I know it's a very cliche thing to say, but I think it's been quite a lesson to learn with not kind of taking much from pre-season, that it is only a run out, and that probably tactics and kind of personnel within the team and who's playing where isn't really to be that kind of looked into. I was always pretty confident, albeit pre-season wasn't very didn't give us much room for optimism, but I always felt that we would, because of the start that we had, that it was going to be difficult regardless. But I thought on that opening day at Arsenal, they were great. And I thought it looked like, if anything, it looked like they had quite a good pre-season, particularly considering I thought second half where they kept a good Arsenal team at bay. But I always knew we would get players through the door at some point, and obviously we did towards the back end of the window. But I was always confident, like I said, we would get the players we need to build a team that we've got now to be strong and competitive again. I think it's really a case of just patience is key, and trust the club, trust Cooper, and trust the Marinakis family to finance it, and Cooper and the recruitment guys to get it right, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been funny if we had a really good pre-season, because then everyone would have been thinking, yeah, Europe's on the cards, and then been bitterly disappointed. So it kind of works both ways, doesn't it? Do you think I think we look we look a lot fitter than last season, because obviously I thought when we played Newcastle then West Ham last season, we just looked like we were chasing shadows a lot of the time. Even that West Ham game where we won and we was quite competitive, it was still they looked like a huge gulf in class and fitness. But this season, I think we actually look really fit. Like we're staying in games a lot more so this season. I know they've been pretty tight, which is kind of a reflection of what the work we've done in pre-season as well, and towards the back end of last season. So that's good. But who's impressed you so far this season?
The left back, I don't want to get his name wrong. I feel like
Ola Aina.
Yeah, he's been. The Etihad. I actually said to my dad about an hour ago. I said that there's not many fullbacks which will run past Kyle Walker this season. And
I was about to say.
On Saturday in the second half, he did it 2 or 3 times. So I think he's been out of all the signings we've made, all the money we've spent. I think he's been our best signing, and he cost absolutely nothing. And I think that's kind of like quite testament to the recruitment team, really, that they've been able to kind of, obviously we've spent money, but kind of they've dipped into the free transfer market as well. And they've been able to find an absolute gem with that. So I think he's been incredible. I think Hudson-Odoi, if they can unlock his potential, I think there's a real footballer there. The Blad Dominguez I thought was brilliant on Saturday. It's still early days, but he looked like he's kind of got like a real creative influence. Somebody said it on Twitter, and I thought it was quite right with Dominguez, and I'm interested to know your thoughts, Wilco, was that he's Freuler, but he's got athleticism. So he can kind of, maybe he's got the same kind of pass range as Freuler, maybe probably even better, but he's got that athleticism and can keep up the pace of Premier League football. So he's really impressed me as well, and I look forward to seeing what else he can do. God, there's been that many signings again. So I think, and of course, I think Turner's been brilliant in goal as well. Apart from maybe 1 or 2 indecisive moments, but I think complete goalkeepers are a bit of a myth. But I think on the whole, he's been very, very good.
Yeah, I think Olaine has been really good. We've sang his phrases a lot on this podcast. I mean, I'm really excited to see him actually at right back rather than playing at left back. But yeah. I mean, it's good that he can do both roles and pretty comfortably at that. And I'd say he's quite an intricate kind of player as well on that side. I think he could build quite a good relationship with like Hudson-Odoi, and then obviously Gibbs White coming in over to that side every now and then when you want to try and find pockets of space. Your point on Dominguez, I thought he was really good on Saturday, like control midfield. Look, like for someone that's debutising at Man City away, and I know the second half it helped that they went down to 10 men and their best player, probably the best player in the league, went off. It helped him get on the ball a lot more. But to say like he doesn't know the language very much. He demanded the ball and looks very, very comfortable with his passing and his like, I don't know, he's kind of almost his leadership, because he was captain at Bologna, so that kind of shone through a bit. So I'm intrigued to see what him and like Sangare and maybe a Yates midfield will do, and if they can dominate, because he looks quite a tidy player as well as someone who's quite aggressive as well, which is something that we do need in that midfield. So that's good. So yeah, Matt Turner, yeah, he's been good, hasn't he? I think. I mean, I'm very intrigued to see when he will get potentially dropped, because there's been those rumours, haven't there?
Yeah, about the great goalkeeper that is. They look at him as being a long-term number 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Wilco? It's weird because I don't pretend to know everything about football and players and everything, like every player ever, because I don't. But the amount of like people I've said, like non-Forest fans, who have said to me, "Oh, you've signed that goalkeeper from Benfica. He's really good." So he obviously comes with quite like a high ceiling. And kind of quite like renowned as having a lot of potential to be really good. So I know there was a piece in The Athletic, wasn't there, about Forest look at him as being the long-term number 1. But at the moment in time, I don't see how you can drop Turner because of how good he's been, really. But I think this season it is nice to have 2 very, very strong and competitive goalkeepers. I thought last season, I know this sounds harsh and you might pull me up on it, but I didn't really think a great deal of Wayne Hennessy at any given point. He wasn't horrific, but I think in this league more than ever you need 2 very good goalkeepers, and I think we've got that now. And I thought last season that was lacking a bit. But yeah, I think it's when, not if, the Greek goalkeeper comes into the team, and it will be interesting to see when Cooper gives him the nod to do that, really.
Are you calling him the Greek goalkeeper until you might be able to pronounce his name? Or brilliant. I thought your controversial opinion there was going to be about Keylor Navas, because I actually didn't think, I thought he was a good shot stopper, but I didn't think anything other than that, to be honest, of him. I thought for a guy who's so highly rated, been at PSG and Real Madrid, I think really weren't anything special. I know he's old, but I didn't think anything special. I'm quite glad we stayed away from it. But there is one thing that we do need to touching about goalkeeping is Dean Henderson went off injured yesterday for Crystal Palace. Now, I don't wish an injury upon anyone, But like the recruitment team at Forest must have seen that and gone, "Oh, we got that one right." Because you can kind of see now a lot. I think a lot of people then realise that actually the deal that we wanted to put in place for Dean Henderson of making it actually want 30 games out of him before we make a obligation to pay 20 million Man United was the right decision at the moment. Would you not say?
Absolutely. Well, I think I know, like I'll always own. I never pretend to be right about anything, Walker, because I'm not. But it's just like with I accused the club in the midst of summer, in the summer months, of lowballing. But I think it appears, with hindsight, that the club probably knew the severity of Henderson's injury whilst he was at Forest towards the back end of last season. And I don't know whether the medical guys said to the football club and said, I wouldn't be paying a lot of money outright for this lad because the injury isn't great. And I think, once again, with the benefit of hindsight, because I know it was kind of reported that Forest wanted a loan move with an obligation to buy after a certain amount of games to trigger that. And I think that was wise, because I think I know, obviously, once again, hindsight, but imagine if we'd have paid 30 million, he would have played for us, I don't know, 3 or 4 games into a season, and we would have been taking him off and having to put a second goalkeeper in goal. It just, with the transfer market now shut, I'd like to add as well. So I think that shows that I know absolutely nothing, and that the
Well, we've bought 2 keepers for less than the price that he actually ended up going to Palace, and one who's, like you say, you mentioned, plays for Benfica. He was in the quarterfinals of the Champions League last season of Lacademos. So, that's, you can't really buy a lot more experience than that unless you're paying like top dollar. But let's move on to the style and formation and like moving forward, obviously, because there's been a lot of heavy debate of how we're going to go this season. Do you think this is like a good time to implement a different style this season as ever, because of how potentially weak the bottom might be?
Well, I thought, thing is, you don't want to start going down the route of being arrogant and going away from what works for you, don't you? On the basis that the bottom 3 aren't great this season. For me, in both our promotion season, the high points of last season, albeit it was very few and far between, but the good results we did get, and should be the blueprint for this season as well, because I always think that Cooper's teams are predominantly based around 3 pretty strong centre halves and 2 wing backs, which press high up the pitch and give us more of an option offensively, and then having 3 midfield players of a sitting CDM, someone with athleticism, which I think Danilo does that job, and Dominguez is also going to do that, and someone like Mangala, who's a big physical presence in there as well, and then obviously having the 3 and then obviously having the forward players with Taiwo and Gibbs White as well. So I don't think they should go away from what's worked well for a few years now. I think it's very effective. I suppose it's all going to be dependent, isn't it, on because I said this after the Sheffield United and the Burnley games. I think Cooper's tactical prowess against the better teams is near enough spot on, because I think that's what our game plan is predominantly based around. I think now the kind of the mission, if you like, is to transition over having more control and more of the ball against the lesser teams, if you like. I'm talking your Sheffield United and your Burnleys, because I suppose the point that I'm making is I think that we are based around, our game plan is to stifle better teams, kind of have them a lot of the ball, sit in a low block, and then cause issues when we turn the ball over and spring them on the counter attack. But against Sheffield United and Burnley, particularly the players we've now got and the money we've just spent, I would like to see us have more control and more of the ball at the City ground, and putting I don't say passing moves together, but that's not right. But just kind of, it just feels like a lot in those games we kind of spent a lot of the game not chasing the football, and I think we've got better players now to be able to have that better level of control.
I suppose it's trying to find those patterns and those connections on the pitches in it, like with like when fullbacks make overlapping or underlapping runs, and like midfield runners and that sort of thing, I guess. And like you say, I think it's dependent on opposition, isn't it, really? Because you're not going to get, like, we went to City to try and defend. I mean, it was unfortunate that we let 2, I mean, I say sloppy, but Man City score those goals so often.
Yeah,
it makes it look sloppy, doesn't it? So, and then like obviously to then have 45 minutes near enough, maybe 50 with the injury time against City, and trying and actually almost pretty much pinning them back. But we couldn't break them down, to be honest. I think it's going to take a little while, isn't it, to like get that into us, especially even against lesser sides who are going to naturally sit back, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pose a question for you, Wilco, as well. I think that I'm not under any illusions. Obviously, the Rodri red card changed the game in terms of, obviously, with us having more emphasis and more of the ball. I'd like to think I'm not deluded. I think that if it would have been 11v11, we might have gone for 3 or 4. But I don't think that's anything to the detriment of Forest. I think it's just how good City are. So I think that the way we played in the second half on Saturday was, I thought we played well. I thought we kept the football well, we maintained it. We kind of had like asserted levels of pressure. But I think my kind of one, and this is something which Cooper alluded to post-match, I think that just kind of going to venues like that and just playing with a bit more belief, because I really think for 10, 15 minutes, particularly after Rodri got sent off and Taiwo missed the one-on-one and Edison squared up to him, I think for 10 or 15 minutes they were rattled. And I think if we would have got one back, I think that might have made it a bit of an uncomfortable afternoon for them. So I never felt like, I couldn't doubt the effort, couldn't doubt the spirit. I thought maintaining of the football was great. So having a bit more belief at those venues that we can go and cause some issues, and we can, particularly 11v10, we can go and be a bit braver in and around their 18-yard box, really.
Yeah, I do think even if Rodri wasn't the one getting sent off and it was someone else from City, then I think they would have still possibly controlled the game, because he's just that good. So, yeah, no, I think you're right. It's all circumstantial that situation came about. I do think we could have been a bit braver. I think sometimes our decision making, or maybe the speed of play, kind of let us down in terms of actually really hurting City. And it will come. I think it's just about, like you say, we've been playing low block football for about a good 12 months at least. And I mean, even in the Championship, we did play that counter-attacking more so than not. So it's kind of like trying to get out of that habit, I guess, and into a different one. But Billy Davis had a couple of systems. I mean, I'm sure, I don't see why Cooper can't as well. So I'm sure that more will come for it. Before we're going to get into the Brentford game, Matt, I did catch up with Beesotted Brentford's Billy Grant. I am delighted to be joined by Billy Grant of Beesotted Brentford. Bill, how are you, mate? It's been a while since I've seen you.
That's right. I tell you, it's been a while, actually. I was just looking back at the first time when we met you guys, when it came down to Forest. We did the Derby versus Forest video that time. I don't know if you remember. We did it for 72 reviewers. We were doing some stuff with Ball Street at the time. Little kind of fan video mini documentaries. Sort of one of the earlier mini documentaries things that were happening from a fan perspective. And we were trying to do it from an EFL, from a sort of kind of more, say, grassroots, but like, forget this Premier League nonsense we were saying. It's like, it's all about the EFL. It's all about lower league football. And then now here we are together, both in the Premier League, on a different level to where we were then back in the day. So it's been a bit of a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's your third season in the Premier League, our second season syndrome, as I like to call it, though Brentford didn't suffer that with second season syndrome last season. But how has your start to the season been, Bill?
I'll be honest with you, it's been all right. I know there's been a bit of moaning going on, and the last couple of results haven't gone our way, but I think that you've got to look at the bigger picture. You've got to look at the budgets that we have. We still, we're not competing against, your Man Cities and your Arsenals and that, budget wise. So to actually still be in the game, I think is a good thing for us. And also, obviously, we've got Ivan Toney, who's missing, who's a big part of what we're about, about the way that we play. He scored, it's the third highest goal scorer last season behind Harry Kane and Haaland. You know what I'm saying? He's a big player for us to have him missing, no matter what people may say. I'm saying, oh yeah, it's like he is very, very important to us. So to take him out of our team, to take him out of any team would be a big miss. But we dealt with it really well because we knew that was coming. Brian Mbeumo has had a fantastic start to the season. He's a great player. And again, it's one of those things where sometimes if you've got somebody in the mix, sometimes they do overshadow. But if you take somebody out of the mix, somebody else has to step up. And I think Mbeumo has really stepped up this season. So he scored a fair few goals, few assists, and also it's bringing people like Wisa and other people into the game. So the season has been, I'd say it's been good. We've got a few draws. Got a draw against Tottenham at home. We got a draw against Bournemouth at home. A lot of the fans that went to the game said they felt that we should have won those games, which you probably should have done. But it's one of those games of football, you don't take your chances, you don't win. So they're a little bit disappointed that we should be getting more wins at home. But my arguments, I'm saying, listen, we've got a big player out, and we're still playing good football. So we should actually kind of like just not be too harsh on ourselves. But I'm saying that the big blow did come because, like, Ivan Toney out, honestly, didn't bother me at all. The big blow came last weekend when Rico Henry got injured up at Newcastle. Now, Rico Henry is a massive player for Brentford. Wing back, he's fast. He should be in Gareth's England team. He should have, every time Gareth comes down, has a look, and then you think, yeah, he's going to pick Rico, and he never does. It's honestly, I'm confused as to why he never did, because he's absolutely brilliant. And he got injured. He's out for the season. And that's a massive blow for us, because it changes our style of football. You know, he's got so much pace. You know, you basically keep, your opposition on the back foot. You know, we play high up the field. You know, we can break, like massive speed. So him being out of the game has been a nightmare. And then we heard Kevin Charde as well, who's another, as you call it, of a shovel player. Okay, very, very fast as well. And he got injured in the warm-up as well last week against Everton. So again, we've had to change things around quite a lot. So listen, you can talk about how good or bad your season's going to go when you've got your 11 or 12 or 14 or 16 or 18 players that are there, that are going to play. But as soon as you start getting these things that you can't account for, which are injuries, it just throws everything up in the air. And I think for Brentford, we're at the scenario where on our Beesotted podcast ring as well, and part of West London, by the way, you can check us out. We'll have a podcast up, or should be maybe Thursday night. We're playing Arsenal, so after the Arsenal game, we'll have a podcast up, and also we do one straight after the game. But everyone was going around going, any free agents available? You know what I'm saying? we're at the stage now we're thinking, oh God, we might be caught a little bit short. But listen, I'm still happy to be here. I'm a Brentford fan, playing in the Premier League. If it all goes up well, that's good. If it doesn't, then, we just have to deal with it, so no problem.
Yeah, how's the adjustment been without Ivan Toney? Because obviously you had Kevin Charde on loan last season, then that's been made permanently. You've just mentioned he got injured. I actually didn't know that. But what's that adjustment been like to lose such a pivotal player? And are you surprised that you didn't go out and get maybe another striker to support Kevin Charde? Or was the plan to, because obviously you was a big interest in Brennan Johnson from Brentford, was the plan to maybe get Brennan Johnson in, hopefully, and then have like Mbuemo, Visser and Johnson kind of like just pace and just chaos kind of interchange and that sort of thing? What's your opinion on that?
The thing is, with Ivan, they've known that he's going to be out for ages. So Kevin Charde, actually, we've been looking at him for quite a while, and we got him in. And you do these things to say you get him in on loan. It wasn't really on loan; it was just one of them signings. You just, you get him in early. It's just like
it's a loophole, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah. Just like the David Raya scenario. Everyone's going, "Oh, but why are you loaning him to Arsenal?" He's not loaned to Arsenal. Not be funny. He's their number one keeper now. We always knew he's going to be number one keeper. I forgot to mention him as well. That's a big blow for us as well. But I'll come back to the question that you asked me. So so that's the idea, to get Charde was to come in, and I think eventually at some stage he's going to play a big part. But the way that Brentford play is that what we like to do is we like to get players and managers in early, like we did with Thomas Frank, get him in two years early, so he can learn the ropes. So by the time Dean Smith leaves, he just slips right in. Again, we do that with our players, where we bring them in and try not to get them to hit the floor running, because if you bring in players who still need development, it's quite hard for you to go, right, here you go, you got to do a job. So we brought them in, like Charde, and people are like, he's been in for 6 months. All of a sudden, people question him, like, I don't know if he's going to be any good. It's like, he's only been here for 6 months. Give him a bit more time. Some of these players need a year and a half before they actually get to that next level. Even Brian Mbuemo, everyone's talking about him now, but now how long has he been at Brentford, and how long has it taken him to move up a level every single time? And he's still young. I don't know how old Mbuemo is now. I think he's maybe about 23. 23 or 24 maybe at the most, but so this is the whole thing, what we're doing. So we brought in Charde to be part of the plan, but I think they were very comfortable with what they had. Brennan Johnson, I'll be honest with you, we've been after Brennan Johnson for, and we kind of know, if anyone knows anything about Beesotted, we kind of know what's going on. Being sort of quite a small club, we've got our sort of fingers in a few little pies. So Brennan Johnson, we were after him from when he was at Lincoln. He was at loan at Lincoln. He played for them in the playoffs, played a semi-final, played a playoff final. He lost in the playoff final there as well. And then he came back to you. And that's when we made our first moves for Brennan Johnson, actually. Interestingly, there's also another team that made a move, or was really interested, Charlotte FC, which is a team over in the States as well, an MLS team as well. They were very interested in Brennan Johnson as well. but they were, I say priced out of the market. I think by Brentford coming in, we made quite a few offers, but the offer that we made at the time probably wasn't enough to make Forest go, we want some of that. We're talking about just over 10 million. Maybe if we got up a couple of million, we would have got him at that time, because he hadn't actually played for Forest at the time, because he'd just come from Lincoln. So, at the time we probably thought, he's played in Division 1, he hasn't had even championship experience or a lot of championship experience. So maybe we didn't push the boat out as much as we could have done at the time. But ironically, then, the chase has gone on. We've been after him season after season ever since then. He's obviously come up. He's shown himself to be very good, playing in the Premier League as well, successful. And we did chase him. But at that stage, as what happens with Brentford is if we don't get them early, then everyone else sort of comes wading in and they waded him. And he's gone, and he's a good player. So the whole idea was, yes, we want pace. We needed pace. Charde is fast, Brennan Johnson being in there, being fast and a good player. We thought that he'd be a really good addition. But then afterwards, we looked at some other players as well. We went over to Italy, and we actually bid more than we've ever bid before. I mean, we were bidding sort of like, our record signing was like £4 million like about 3 years ago, and now we've actually bid sort of £40 million or 40 million euros for this Argentinian as well, which we were like, whoa, from Fiorentina as well. I can't remember his name is Fernandez. I can't remember what his name is actually. I should have done my research before I came on there. Apologies. And in the end, we didn't get him. We got a guy from PSG that we'd also put a lot of big bid in for as well. We didn't get him. So it's interesting because we're actually playing in a different playing field now. And what we find is a lot of players, when you want to try and they're sort of those big money, 30, 35, 40 million pound players, if they're worth that money, they're looking to actually get into Europe. So they're looking to a team that get into Europe. So if they're, looking at us versus Villa, us versus Brighton, they might move to those places to get them that European football. So it's a different and interesting game. So we didn't really sign a inverted commas striker over the summer period. I think we felt that we can deal with what we've had until Ivan Toney comes back. We all believe that Ivan Toney is going to go in January. Already, there's a lot of people sniffing around him. We believe that he's going to go in January. That's, he's moved to a new agency, CAA, which is a big agency that players basically go to when you want to move to a big team. So he's moved to CAA. So we've already think that he might play one game for us, and then he's going to be off. So he's going to go, we think, in January, which means that I think Brentford are obviously prepping themselves up to actually probably buy someone either in that window or buy someone in the following window. We're the kind of club that we don't panic. Some fans get a little bit frustrated by it. They just say, come on, sort yourselves out. Don't buy somebody. But they're just like, we're not going to make a signing for the sake of it, because it just can disrupt the whole team. If we've got, they're saying, if we're going to buy a striker, it's no point buying. You can't buy a striker who is going to be a 20-goal striker and say, we're going to put you on a bench. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to happen. So what if you've got 2 20-goal strikers in your side? How are you going to balance it? Or 3 20-goal strikers in your side? Nice problem to have, but it's sort of quite difficult. So more often than not, you're always looking for a player who's basically almost like on the rise, who's like, this is going to be your opportunity. We're going to give you the chance to make yourself better, and we're going to coach you to be a better player. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, to pluck out. So let's just watch the space, and let's just see. I think for us, with Rico Henry being out, and I said to you, big player for us being out now, it's a case of us trying to get to January and still be with your head above the water, because it's going to make a big difference. Because if we sort of going into January and we're looking like bottom 3-ish, because of the injuries that we've got, there's going to be a different type of tactic that's going to have to be taken by Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, I was in agreement with your Rico Henry statement. Every time I've watched him, he's looked superb. I think the Man City game away last season, he was massive in getting that win there. And I always thought he should be in a shoo-in for at least challenging at the left-back spot for England. But it's such a shame that he's been injured, because I'm about to take him out my fantasy team now, Bill, for the first time in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
Sorry about that, mate.
What's your new boys been like? Obviously, you got a keeper Flecken in goal for Raya. I've heard mixed reviews on the Brentford timeline. Obviously, you got Nathan Collins from Wolves, and then you might have to help me with the other player. I can't pronounce his name. Is he Ukrainian or something?
Yermolik. So yeah, he's not new as. I mean, he might be new as in the fact that he's come into the team and you've seen him play a couple of games. But we actually signed him over a season ago. We were going to, so we signed him from Ukraine. But just coming back to the players, I'll come back to him in a minute. But Flecken, goalkeeper, David Raya decided that he wasn't going to sign a new contract with Brentford. The way that Brentford roll is that if you don't decide you're not going to sign a new contract, you've got like a year and a half to go on your contract. Then we're going to sell you. So basically, he wouldn't sign a new contract. So before we knew it, excuse me, he turned around and we had another goalkeeper. And he was a bit like, hold on a second, what's going on here? So he was kind of forcing a little move. Arsenal actually bid for him a couple of years ago, and they bid, I think it was around 10 million, and we turned it down at that time. And I think at that stage he was thinking, I want to move to another club, a bigger club. But that wasn't the right time for us. So when it came around this time, like I said to you, he didn't sign a new contract. You know, Spurs were sniffing around, then Arsenal came in sniffing around, and in the end, we did a deal with Arsenal. I mean, everyone talks about the loan deal. It's not a loan deal at all. It's like we've helped them to get around their FFP issues. You can't go around signing £105 million players without getting yourself in a little bit of a pickle, you know. So yeah, we've helped them to do that. But he is 100% going to be the number one keeper. Everyone's sort of talking about, you know, him and Ramsdale going to be sharing the number one. Listen, we're Brentford fans, and we just know what's going on. And he went there to be the number one keeper. He's a sweeper keeper, as you know. He's like, if you look around, you know, you find him on the halfway line. He'll nutmeg one of your sort of kind of your forwards, you know, take the ball, take him around a couple of times and kick the ball out to the left wing. He's just, I mean, he's like a midfielder. And that's the type of player that Arteta wants. And that's what we've been missing a little bit. Our new keeper, I know it's unfair because he hasn't been here that long, but I went over to America with Brentford. They went on a US tour. We went to Philly, Atlanta, and we went to Washington. Great fun. And we saw Flecken, the Fulham game, first of all, made a couple of mistakes. And then I was down at Atlanta, and then he played in the game against Brighton as well. And he looked a bit iffy in all the matches down there. We all looked going, God blimey. But again, patience, as we tried to do with Brentford, as Brentford fans, because David Raya came in for his first 6 months. We were thinking, I thought this guy's going to be a superstar. And he's flapping and he's doing all sorts of stuff. But it took him a while to grow into it and to be the keeper that he wants to. So I think Brentford, if they're doing their job right, I would like to think that Flecken in 6 months' time will be a decent keeper. But you may see a mistake or two in him on Sunday, because he definitely has got a mistake in two in him. I think we said on our podcast last week, Pride of West London, by the way, that he couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. He tried to punch the other week, and it was quite bad actually. It's like, wow. So Flecken, you know, question marks about him. I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm just telling you and observing about yourself. And then I said to you, and then Nathan Collins, he basically, that's what I'm saying to you. Those are kind of two kind of main signings as well. Centre back, Wolverhampton Wanderers, used to play with Benway at Burnley. Good in the air, good at carrying the ball, and we thought he's going to add to us aerially, both at the front and at the back. Pontus Jansson had just left, so we're looking for someone to kind of replace him. He looked brilliant in his first few games. He looked brilliant against, I think it was Fulham as well, or was it Tottenham? Really, really good. Made a massive fluff against Everton, got caught in possession. They scored their third goal off the back of it. A lot of people are moaning, saying, oh my God, I can't believe he's 27 million. But again, it's one of those things, sometimes players take a while to grow into the game. So, you know, he's all right. So those, like I said to you, those are our two main signings, but there's been a lot of moaning going on from Brentford fans, because they thought that they're going to see another big signing. But it's tough in this league, you know what I'm saying? Because you're competing against people with big pots of money, big reputations, you know, big everything. So we shall see how that's going to pan out.
It's interesting you say that for a club of Brentford sides, and obviously you're surrounded by so many clubs in London that the expectations do go up. Obviously you survived the first season quite comfortably, second season almost pushed for Europe. So really interesting that you say that with the size of the club that you are. No disrespect there, obviously surrounded by so many London teams, it must be difficult. But talking about your last game against Everton and 3-1 loss at home, what went wrong, Bill?
You know, like sometimes you play some games and you're not at the races. You know, things have changed around. Charde got injured in the warm-up, so all of a sudden it's like you've lost, you know, a big part of your playing plan minutes before you're going to kick off. Rico Henry is out, so we had to swap, you know, Aaron Hickey from the right to the left and put, you know, Roslev out on the right. You know, they haven't got the same type of pace, or they're not the same type of players as, who they replaced, but also the other thing, you've got to look at the interaction between the wingers and the fullback. So Rico Henry, how he interacts, on the wing, and how Hickey interacts on the wing. All of a sudden, it's changed, and he's interacting with somebody else, and it's different. So your whole plans are changed within a very short space of time. Everton, they pressed us, they played well. It's interesting because Everton, Sean Dyche is their manager, and everyone has a go at Dyche, but it makes me laugh because not last season, the season before, when Burnley were appalling in the Premier League, it was our first season in the Premier League, I think it was. Because that last season was our second season. So it's the first season in the Premier League. Burnley was there as well, and we played them up at Burnley. They couldn't win for toffee, right? And literally they'd lost almost every single game, and we played them towards the end of October. I remember going up there, taking 6 hours to get up there, rail disruptions and snow and rain. Oh, it's horrible getting up there. And then we got there, we just thought, right, it's got into the stand. Let's just see ourselves have a nice, good win because everyone's beaten them. And they literally played us off the park, right? And I think by half time it was like 3-0 or something. It was just stupid. And no one even moaned because they were so good at Burnley. We're like going, why do they play like this every week? Honestly, they're passing the ball around. They just had our number. And in the end, they beat us 3-1. It was a horrible journey back. Took about 7 hours to get back again. And I was just thinking, I don't want to go back to Burnley again. But it's Dyche. And Dyche, again, it's funny. He plays a particular game with Everton, and then all of a sudden he comes down and he's done the same thing again. He's just, I don't know if it's just us or if he knows how to play against us, but he just absolutely did us, and they pressed us high, and they just everything, and we were just not on. We were just not on it at all. And sometimes that's just how it goes. And to be honest with you, I was probably the least despondent of all the Brentford fans because, as you know, I've been to. I went to the US tour in America, and then I came back, and then I went back out to America again with the family, which was booked ages ago. So I spent pretty much the whole summer in America, and one of the reasons because I've not missed, I missed 6 Brentford games. I've never missed 6 Brentford games in my life. So I'm missing 6 Brentford games. But the one thing about it is that I felt more comfortable about it is I knew that I could literally wake up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, walk down to a bar in America, and sit down and watch football match. You walk into a bar, he goes, what game are you watching? I said, Brentford. He goes, right, that's on screen 5. And you sit down there, would you like a pint? So you sit down, pull a pint, like 9:45 in the morning, look in the corner there, and you watch the game. So I didn't actually miss any of the Brentford games at all. And I felt more comfortable doing that, which is all good. So for me, the Everton game was actually my first live game that I had watched, and I can't believe it. Like I said to you, I've never missed 6 games in a row, and even though we did lose, I was just so happy to be in the pub beforehand, down the Globe beforehand, down the pub afterwards, the Globe afterwards, and then the game was like, oh well, that's a bit of an inconvenience, isn't it? So it didn't actually really bother me that much because I was just happy to be back watching football.
Yeah, well, this next question might have changed from the start of the season, obviously because of all the injuries you've had now. Obviously, Rico Henry absent for the season, Raya going, etc. What's your ambitions for the season now? Because I'd have thought at the start Brentford might look to push for those latter European spots. Maybe now you're thinking, well, just try and get mid-table kind of thing and reassess in the summer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I write a fan review piece in the Observer every 3 or 4 months. And I'm sort of sitting down there thinking, did I do the latest one? I did do the latest one when I was over in the States, actually. And I can't remember because they always ask you for a prediction. And I can't remember what I predicted Brentford as finishing at all because it's all gone so clouded. But we finished 9th last season. I don't think I had us finishing higher than 9th. I think I put us down to something like 12th. I might have to go and check it again. And it's kind of one of those things. The reality is, and again, I'm not trying to put down, but this is what this league is like, and I can see it probably gets a little bit Groundhog Day after being here after 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years. Probably teams like Palace, you sort of think, what are we doing? But if you finish anywhere between sort of 8th and 9th and 17th, it's almost like the same. You know what I'm saying? Because it's that sort of no man's land. So it's like, you're not going, oh, Ray, we finished 10th. Oh, it's really, it's like, yeah, but, 10th. So the fact is that the reality is, as long as we can, because we are in a sort of kind of transitional stage now. So as long as we can keep ourselves with our head above water in the transitional stage, I'll be happy. If we finish 15th, we finish 15th. If we finish 11th, it'll be great. You know what I'm saying? Interestingly, we have a little conversation again on the podcast and off the podcast as to how great is the Premier League? You know, us as Brentford have been in the lower leagues. I mean, ever since I was born. You know what I'm saying? We've always been 4th division, 3rd division. Oh, we've popped up to the 2nd tier. You know, for a little bit. Like, this is quite exciting. But literally, we've always been a 3rd and 4th division team. So to be in the Premier League is a little bit of a bit of a dream, a little bit weird, and also a little bit kind of out of our comfort zone. Even though, we enjoy it, we're doing really well. You know, as fans, it's very different up here. You've probably seen it as well. Different the way the fans, the opposition fans, the international fan bases. It's good, but there's also some very strange things, and there's some bonuses about being in the lower leagues. You know what I'm saying? Because you haven't got that focus, same international focus or TV focus on it. That there's an argument to say, and this is not disrespecting fans on the whole, but who in America is going to go and support Preston North End? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, it's not going to happen. When you go to the Preston game, you've got Preston fans, and they understand football and Preston, and they're in it, and and it's a different, really, really different vibe, and people, to a certain extent, sort of take winning and losing a lot better and a lot realer. Whereas I find here, oh my God, you get some teams and fans, they just expect to win. And then, if they lose, it's like all hell will break loose. And it's that really weird expectation that things should be a particular way because you are in the Premier League. And it's like, well, football it's not like that. And not be funny, not everyone can win. If everyone won, then it just kind of that just defies the whole nature of gravity or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Someone's got to lose and someone's got to win, and that's just the way that it is. But it's very, very different. And my daughter, she's been going to games since she's like 6 months old with me, and she's been all the way through the different. She's 14 now. She's been through everywhere, and she plays football, and she's banging to her footy. She took her to West Brom away in the Championship one year, and then she just said, "Dad, I want to come to every single game, home and away after this." And so I did start to take her home and away.
Bill.
Yeah, it was actually. So because it gave me an excuse. I could say the missus are going, okay, my little daughter wants to go, so we've got to go to Middlesbrough or somewhere like that. And then the pandemic came, and that just killed all that for a bit. But she's come back, and we've obviously all of a sudden the pandemic killed it. We come back, we're in the Premier League. She's gone Premier League, didn't miss a game all season. The following season, went to game. She said to me the other day, she's stopped, she's not going to games. And she's like, I've got season ticket and all that. Oh, where are you playing? She's going, oh, we're playing Everton. No, I'm not. And she keeps on just not going to games, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to go. She's kind of Forest actually, because she says I want to go to Forest because it's old school stadium, and I've heard it's really good, atmosphere is really good. And she said to me 2 days ago, she goes, Dad, I don't like the Premier League. It's boring. It's rubbish. You know what I'm saying? Can we get relegated? And I was like, cool, behind me. You know what I'm saying? But it's interesting. A 40-year-old girl, and she was just going, it's boring. It's like teams come down and it's just a little bit, and the atmosphere and the fans and all this kind of stuff. So it's quite interesting, different perspectives from different people as to kind of where we are at the time. I'm enjoying the Premier League. I just enjoy going to football. So, kind of whatever. But I think, I can see people's perspectives and people's points of view when we used to speak to Fulham fans, Burnley fans, Norwich fans, all these other fans going, oh, God, it's a bit crap up there. And Sheffield United fans, it's a bit rubbish up there, actually. It's much better down here. And I do understand both points of view.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, let's get into the game. What's your thoughts on Forest early doors so far?
Listen, they've been doing all right. I mean, you've got your Gibbs White, who's obviously a big player for you. Again, take him out the mixer. Like taking Ivan Toney out the mixer, and it could make Forest a very different team. But I've got as you know, I've got quite a lot of Forest friends, and I talk to them quite a lot about, especially last season, and when they were concerned about getting relegated, and I said to them, listen. I said, it's really different in this league. I said, you're worried about sort of kind of winning week on week. I said, it doesn't work like that. Basically, you've just got to kind of pick off certain games and win those games. And then the rest of them, you sort of kind of take them that you're going to lose them. You know what I'm saying? If you play Man City, right, just take it, you're going to lose it. You try your best, but you take it, you're going to lose it. But I said, but what will happen is that you will get a bonus game that you will never think that you're going to get. That's normally Chelsea, right? So I'm saying, so you go and get that, you get 3 points that you won't normally think that you're going to get. So all of a sudden you've chalked up an extra 3 points, and it's all about sort of chalking up that extra point and extra 3 points in this league. So I think Forest kind of work that out towards the back end of the season, and you did okay. And I think again, it's one of those things where it's not a case, let's go for Europe. It's just kind of just keep yourselves in there, and then you get more money, and then more money comes in. You can build and bring better players. So it's just keeping your head above water. So I think Forest are doing all right in doing that so far this season. I didn't see them or don't see them as one of the teams that are going to be struggling down the bottom. I just don't. I think there's at least excuse me, but at least one or at least two, if not three teams already that are within that. I think sort of Luton and Sheffield United, and again, I tried to sort of kind of give them a little bit of credence before the season. I didn't want to do the kind of usual, everyone, the teams that come up are going to go down. So I actually kind of gave them a bit of credence, and I thought actually they might be able to survive with their fighting power, but they look like they're kind of, Sheffield United are definitely struggling, and Luton again, they'll have to start pulling something out the bag a little bit. So that means that if those two are gone, it means there's only one place left, and there's going to be quite a few teams fighting in and around that. So that's going to be quite interesting. And I don't believe that Forest are going to be one of those teams. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're going to do okay.
Well, yeah, that's hopefully the aim, isn't it? But what's your fears and hopes for the game on Sunday, Bill?
Well, it's my first away game of the season, so I'd love to see a win. Especially as last season, we fluffed it in the final minutes.
VAR did give you a dodgy penalty in my eyes.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. So that sort of kind of robbed us from the 3 points. But again, I wasn't too fussed because I like coming up to Forest, and it was just, it was cool. We got a point. So, but I'd like to see a win. But to be honest with you, I'd actually like to see. I'd like to see a mad game. I'd like there to be like 4-4 or something like that. Where you take the lead, we take the lead. And all that kind of stuff is what I'd like to see, because like I said to you, I've been away for so long seeing football. I'd like to be greedy and just have all the goals on at one game, So let's have a 5-5 game, and I think that'll make us all happy.
Bloody Nora! I mean, what? That's what your head wants and your heart wants, but what does your head say?
My head says that we're going to probably try and go. We don't try and go for draws, but I think the situation we're at the moment now, we're going to just try and again chisel out points. I think Thomas Frank, even though he wouldn't say it out loud, I think he'll be quite happy with a point tomorrow on Sunday, and he'll you've got to just think about how we're going to set ourselves up. Will we set ourselves up? How will we kind of stem the attack of the Gibbs White and all your people up there? But yes, I think a point would be a good result.
Fair enough. And then I know you, as we record this, you're playing Arsenal tonight in the League Cup, so it's probably quite difficult to give us a lineup prediction. But what would your score prediction be? You're going to go for a score draw? Against who? Against Arsenal? No, against Forest.
Oh, okay, no. So what's happened is that actually, and this is going to come out, and you're going to go, he's completely wrong, isn't he? But I'm recording this before we play Arsenal. But my belief is that we're going to be playing quite a few B team players against Arsenal.
Is Beckham making a?
Well, this is the thing. Interesting. But you laugh, but the B team had a game just down the road from me, Wingate and Finchley. They had a game in the London Senior Cup yesterday. They lost 2-0, and I looked at the team, and Beckham wasn't in it. A goalkeeper wasn't in it. There's a few, Briley as well, who's a really exciting young player as well. They didn't play it against them yesterday, so we're thinking, will Beckham be making an appearance in the League Cup against Arsenal? Like I'm saying, I actually, it's kind of weird. Actually, it's in that same cup, the London Senior Cup a year ago. I actually I went down to see Brentford play Hendon. And of course, and as I came out of the stadium, of course, I bumped into David Beckham, as you do. He went down there to see his son, had a few little words with him. I said to him, I remember I went to your party sort of like, 20 odd years ago or 15 years ago, because I went to the party at his house just before the World Cup in 2002, and I actually stepped on his toe when he had a broken toe. I didn't remind him about me stepping on his toe, because I think he probably wouldn't have been, but Victoria wasn't happy about that. But yeah, so I sort of chatted with him. So I got a little photograph with him afterwards. It's like a sort of 20-year reunion. 22-year reunion, 21-year reunion between me and David Beckham. So it's quite funny. So he might be down at New Griffin Park, as we call it tonight, if his son is going to make an appearance. It should be quite interesting. And we keep on asking the question, are we doing it? We're not the kind of club that does that for kind of newspaper headlines. I don't know, but it's like, is he actually that good? We shall see. But asking for a score, on Saturday. Like I said to you, well, you said what score? I said 5-5. So I said it's going to be 5.
5-5. All right.
It's going to be 5-5.
Bill, thanks very much for joining us. You can give your pod another plug, should I say? I know it's Beesotted, but where can people find it? Spotify,
So
Apple.
that's right. So obviously it's going to be at all good podcast channels. If you go to prideofwest.london, because we're the Pride of West London, then you'll be able to check that out as well. Also go to Beesotted, which is BEESOTTOD on Twitter, on Facebook. We're not so biggie on the Instagram. We keep on doing it, but it's just too many channels for us to do bits and pieces. But like I said, prideofwest.london or beesotted.com. We've got a website as well. We're a fanzine that's been going since 1990, actually. And we started as a fanzine in 1990, and then we've morphed into a podcast and a blog and a video blog and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, we do get involved and we do love our football. And as we say to you, that's why we like coming up to Forest, because it doesn't matter what the result is. We'd like to kick football out of football. In fact, football normally gets in the way of football. So, have a good drink before, have a good drink afterwards. And normally the football in the middle actually messes things up. So, but hopefully not on Sunday.
Nice one, Bill. Thank you very much. Safe travels on Sunday. Obviously, not a good look for the game. That would be stupid. But yeah, hope you enjoy your day out. Thoughts for Sunday, Matt? What do you think of Brentford overall? Like, what's your overall opinion? What's the first thing that comes to your head?
Tim Pop. No. I've watched Brentford. I think I watched Brentford on the opening week. They drew 2-2 with Spurs. Yeah, that was the opening weekend, wasn't it?
It was.
I think I watched that as a Sky game. And to be fair to their credit, it's typical Brentford, isn't it? They play good football. They're always a threat. But I don't think I think Brentford will have another good season. I just don't think they've got going yet. And I don't think there's a better time to play them. Like I know, like I said, like the gent said previously that they've got a lot of injuries, and obviously I didn't watch their game against Everton because I was on the way back from Manchester. But from what I kind of heard, that they weren't particularly great. So I don't think I think it'll be a tough game. It's not no game in this league is a walkover, and I think that's what some people need to kind of get into their heads before Luton come to Nottingham as well, because that's got the recipe to go wrong if we treat it with contempt. But yeah, with the Brentford game, I think there's never been a better time. I think if we got a point, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I definitely think it's a game they can win.
I mean, them losing Raya, Rico Henry for the full season, obviously not having Tony till January, and there's talk that he might Gary alluded to it on Stephen Bartlett's podcast that he might go Arsenal. I think he said he favoured, so that kind of spells that one out for you. So, like you said, I think it is a good time to play Brentford. They've lost the last two games to Newcastle and Everton. That Everton game must really hurt them, especially at home when against the side who have barely scored this season. Never mind getting 3 in a game, so that will be interesting. But where do you see them? Like, where can we really hurt them, do you think? Because fullback areas a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say fullback areas. Yeah, Alanga, Hudson-Odoi. I think there's real kind of, particularly with them two out. I think I think with Brentford, you'll always know that always know it'll be a good game of football. So I think it will be. I think it'll be chances at high end. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a high scoring game. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's, I don't know, 2-1, 3-2. 2-2, 3-3, because I think it's that. I think Brentford play that type of football, and I think they're a footballing team. So I think there'll be chances at both ends, and I expect there to be goals as well.
How do you think we'll line up?
Do you know what, Wilco? It's so difficult nowadays because there's so many options, but I think that's testament to our strength and depth. So it's like so many questions. So will Worrell come back into the team? Will Yates? Will Dominguez start, or is it? I'm presuming is Danilo nowhere near fitness at this moment in time?
I don't think so. And Cooper's press conference has not come out, but I assume not with a hamstring injury. It's normally a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah. Depending
on how severe it is. So I can't imagine him coming back yet.
Will he go with Hudson-Odoi, Taiwo, and Gibbs-White, or will he play Alanga? I think that's it. I suppose there's pros and cons to it, isn't it? That the fact of that you always want to know what your starting 11 is, because that indicates what works so well. But I suppose the flip side to it is having options and strength and depth is not anything that we had at any given point last season, and that gives Cooper a nice selection headache to make. So it wouldn't surprise me. He was that good on Saturday. It wouldn't surprise me if Dominguez starts in the middle of the park with Mangala and potentially Yates.
So you're dropping Sangare. Oof.
Oh, do you know what with Sangare? I know we haven't discussed him yet. I think I thought against Burnley there was glimmers of that. There's that obviously what we brought. I thought his anticipation and his interceptions. He did 2 or 3 really nice things, but undoubtedly I think he's going to take a while, as a lot of our players have over the past 12 months, to get up to speed with the pace of this league and the unforgiving nature of it. So it may well be, and I know Cooper said post-match about players kind of being... Cooper alluded to Danilo last season, because I remember Danilo when he came into the scene when we signed him in January. I think we played Leeds at home. You remember when we beat them 1-0 and Brennan Johnson scored?
Yeah.
I think Danilo got hooked off at half time that day because he wasn't very good at all in the first half. So but you wouldn't have thought that, considering how absolutely unbelievable he was the last 5, 6, 7 games of last season. So I think with players, particularly the new players, that they might be kind of dipped in and out of the team and kind of be a bit experimental, particularly with our home games of what works and kind of who what system to play, really.
I think it's an interesting one because Brentford predominantly play with 3 in midfield. I think that's Jensen, Janelt, and one other. I bloody can't remember the name of the midfielder now. But yeah, they're kind of like very techie, kind of knock it about really well. So it's either do you like match him or do you not? And then the problem is you want to get Gibbs White in the number 10 position as much as possible, don't you? I know he's been had a bit of a slow start. I don't know what your opinion of him so far is, Matt, but there's obviously like been murmurs and a bit of groaning on social media that Gibbs White needs to be dropped. But for me, I think you just keep playing him for as long as he's fit. You keep playing him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think with Gibbs White I made this point on the train coming back on Saturday. With Gibbs White, particularly the season that we had last season, everybody needed to go away and have a summer's break. And of course, Gibbs White went away, played a full summer of international football where England went deep into the tournament and won it. And then he's had about 11 days off and then he's come back to Wilford Lane. So I'm not sure that, and maybe this is me clutching at straws a bit, but I'm not really sure how helpful that's been. I just thought he needed a rest, and as I think they all did towards the back end of last season. But I think with Gibbs White, I think it's an inevitability he will come good. And I don't think he's been. Has he hit the heights of last season? Absolutely not. Do I think he's been absolutely horrific? No. I think there's been times where it's kind of he's tried to. I think Gibbs White's a very brave footballer and he'll try passes that probably other players won't, and it doesn't always come off and it doesn't look great because of that. But I think you always keep Gibbs White in the team because he's got that potential to give you that magic moment, whether that be that through ball or the turn on the byline to make something happen or to click us into life. So I'm not really concerned with Gibbs White. I think he'll come good. I just think it's a case of just finding rhythm and us getting some results together, some consistency of the team, and I think it'll all click together.
I kind of think that with him last season, he had to do so much work off the ball. It kind of hindered him when he did get the opportunity sometimes in those positions. So hopefully this season, if we've got a bit more of the ball and then he can receive the ball on the half term closer to the opposition's box, hopefully then that's where we start seeing more chances created, or him hopefully creating chances for himself. So we'll see about that. But if you're Steve Cooper, Matt, what is your 1 to 11? I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are you going with? And then I'll tell you you're wrong.
Navas I'm joking. So Turner in goal.
Fullback's a bit of a tricky one because,
it is. Yeah, it is.
I think to be fair, I think it is. I think we'll go 4, and I think Aurier and Aina will play at fullbacks.
I was going to ask you, Will, is Aurier fit?
I believe so.
So Aurier, Aina, the 2 fullbacks. So if let's say we're going with a flat back 4. Do you know what? I don't know whether it'll be interesting to see when Felipe's fit, whether he comes straight back into the team. I thought Niakate was brilliant on Saturday, by the way, and I think he has been since the back end of last season. So I mean,
if Aurier is not fit, at least Montiel had a decent game at City.
Yeah, he did. And but to be honest with you, I thought that I'm not sure. I know obviously Montiel wasn't great against Burnley, and I'll be first to admit that, but I'm not sure any of them were. It was all kind of 5, 6 out of 10 performances, wasn't it? I'm not sure anybody was particularly. I don't want to. Nobody was outright rubbish, but I just thought everybody was a bit par that night.
He's an angry man.
Yes, yeah. Let's not go there. But yeah. So so flat back 4. So Aurier, Niakate, who's the additional centre back?
It's going to be Bolly or Worrell, isn't it?
Yeah, but it would be one of Worrell or Bolly. I would be amazed if it wouldn't be Bolly, because I think he trusts Bolly, and I think Bolly's been. I think since we signed him and over the past 12 months, I think Bolly's been one of our most underrated players. I think he's brilliant, Bolly.
Yeah, he's been good.
It's just a shame he's made out of McVitie's biscuits, so he'll play 3 games. So Bolly, McKenna, and midfield 4 of Mangala, Sangara, Yates, because I think I think one of few decisions Cooper's got wrong this season was not playing Yates at home to Sheffield United, because particularly the home games, I just think he gives us just that bite in the middle of the park and kind of that bit of emphasis and drive. So Sangara, Mangala, Yates, Dominguez.
Yeah.
And then obviously Taiwo. How could it not be?
Well, you got one more place now.
Because it'd be a 4-4-2. Yeah, it would be a 4-4-2.
Playing a diamond. Playing a diamond here, Matthew. I don't think he'll play diamond.
No, he won't.
He's going to play 4-3. He's going to play either 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. I think.
In the 2 years, I don't know why I'm reading out a 4-4-2, because in the 2 years that Cooper's been boss, I don't think he's played 4-4-2 once.
You've got caught up with how many central midfielders we've got. You play them all, don't you?
Yeah. This is once again going back to the whole kind of strength in depth argument, because it's just there's so many players that everybody's saying to me, like, what about him? What about him? And it's like, oh yeah, well you'd shoehorn him into the team as well, wouldn't you? So yeah, he's not going to go with 4 midfield players of Mangala, Yates, Sangara, and Dominguez, is he? Dropping one of the CDMs. I don't know, Wilco. You put me on the spot.
Do you want me to give you mine, and I'll let you see what you think? So it's going to be Aurier or Montiel at right back.
Yeah.
It'll be Bolly, Niakate, Aina at left back.
Yeah.
We're going to play Sangare. I'd like this anyway. I'd like Sangare, Yates, and Dominguez in central midfield.
Yeah.
Gibbs White as a float in, do what he like whatever he likes. Callum Hudson-Odoi and Taiwo, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because I like Alanga, but I think he's just a better option off the bench at the moment.
Yeah.
As a starter, I kind of, especially on the right hand side, I don't know why he keeps trying to cut in and like kick it with his left foot. Is he left footed? I don't know what foot he is, but he keeps cutting in and crossing with his left foot instead of just getting to the byline and zipping it across.
I think Alanga's very much, and I agree with you, being more of an impact player. I think he's very much a confidence player as well. I thought on Saturday when we put him on, I thought there was times where we kind of stretched City, we played out from the back, and we stretched him particularly in the fullback areas. And Alanga, there were times where we got Alanga into good positions and space to run into, and he's almost kind of like hesitant to kind of either take on his man or make significant strides up the pitch. Now, I don't think that's an ability issue. I think that's a confidence thing, because we've already seen what Alanga could do against Arsenal with the assist for Taiwo. So I think there's undoubtedly ability there. I just don't know whether maybe at the moment is lacking a bit of confidence, and I don't know whether that will coincide with him having more of kind of a regular start in the team, or a goal will do him the world of good. But yeah, I think that I think with his pace, he's definitely more of an impact player. But at the same time, I get the feeling he's the sort of player that needs an assist or needs a goal to kind of send him on his way again.
Because he scored obviously the winner at Chelsea, and I thought like, oh yeah, he'll kick on, then he'll get a start, and then like against against Sheffield United. Was it Sheffield United or Burnley? No, it was Burnley, I think. He kind of didn't do too much against Charlie Taylor. I thought he looked all right against City when he come on and had a run at Kyle Walker here and there. I just think he just kind of needs to get into his head, like, when he gets the ball, this is what I'm going to do, and just do it. And then if he doesn't do it, like, think of something else to try, or just keep doing it. What I do like about him is he doesn't give up. So that's one thing at least he's got in his locker. He's got that determination. So there's definitely a player that can get developed and grow, and hopefully become what Man United maybe hoped he could be, but be for us, obviously. He's still only young, still only 21, isn't he? So got plenty of time. But what's your score prediction for Saturday, Matt?
3-2 Forest.
Get it on your banker.
High scoring game.
High scoring. That'll be good for Super Sunday. They'll all be licking the lips, the pundits, won't they? So what are your hopes for this season, for going forward? Do you want us to consolidate, or is it kind of still survival, or what? Because obviously the optimistic Forest fan on Twitter is we're singing about Europe to Callum Hudson-Odoi now, and it's like, oh no, it's just going to bite us in the arse and we're going to be in a relegation scrap. I'm hoping obviously it's not, and we kind of comfortably survive. That's for me anyway. That's what I think.
I mean, if somebody snaps me 30, if somebody offered me 13th now, I'd absolutely snap your hand off. I don't see them pushing into that anywhere near that top 10, but at the same time, I foresee them being pretty comfortable getting the results they need. Partly because I think we've got a better squad this year, and partly because I think the bottom three are woeful. I think they'll be fine. I think 13th, 14th will be the representation of a good season for Forest, because I think it would all kind of, in terms of like a project and kind of like building, I think that last season was about survival. This season's about sustainability. Next season's about trying to break into that top 12, finish 11th, 10th, 9th, something like that. And then obviously trying to knock on the door of getting an outside chance of, I don't know, getting a Conference League place or something along those lines after that. So I think it's still a gradual building process of being sustainable at this level and making sure we stay here, really.
Yeah, I'm hoping the bottom stays as bad as it can, so we can have like the kind of almost the freedom to kind of get there and build and whatnot. But before you go, Matt, I've just thought of this, and this might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but what's like your hot take for the season? Like something a bit outrageous that you think might happen? It's not really outrageous. I was going to say Tyro's going to get 25 goals. Really? Yeah, 25 goals. Blimey. Yeah. I mean, if he gets 25 goals, he's getting sold for about 100 million. I'm not gonna lie.
But I think there's I think with Tyro, I think there's such potential there. I really do. It's
five goal contributions already.
He's got the potential to be the ultimate footballer with his strength, his power, and like I said, he's already showed he can obviously lay on assists as well as obviously adding to his goal contribution. So I mean, that's kind of outrageously probably way off 25 goals, but like I said, if he keeps showing his form he has done over the opening 5 or 6 games, then why not? I mean, we all showed what he could do in a short period of time towards the back end of last season. So, I think he'll have another good season.
Definitely. Right. Well, that'll be it for this episode of Red Side of the Trent, Matt. If people want to follow you on Twitter, I know if people don't follow you on Twitter, I'll be very surprised, to be honest. But what's your social media? Go on, give it them.
Don't follow me on social. I'm joking. If you want to give us a follow, like I said, City Ground Shelfside on Twitter. So like I said, give us a follow. Always up to chat Forest, and you'll probably get something cricket related thrown in at some point. By the way, it's the Cricket World Cup, so if you want to kind of lay back with following me until that's all over, then I wouldn't blame you.
If it's not the pain of Forest, it's the pain of England.
It's exactly that. It's exactly.
And then obviously you're going away to Crystal Palace, so we might see each other there. We might embrace.
Yes, we'll embrace when Tyro rolls it in with 2 minutes to go.
That'll be lovely.
And then we'll unembrace because they'll be looking at it for VAR. So, yeah.
All right, mate. We'll catch you in the next one. See you all on Sunday. Come on, you Reds.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.